So today we're going to be looking at SVGs and fixing the point of origin of an SVG. If we import an SVG into FreeCAD, what will happen is that if I come up to File and Import and pick my SVG, I've got the FreeCAD logo that I've downloaded, and we can find that with a simple Google search, FreeCAD logo SVG, and we can get that from the Wikimedia. And I've picked this one here, so the one without all of this transparency. So I've just pulled in this one. Just click it and right click, save as. To import the logo, File and Import. And you'll find this problem in most, such as the ones that you design. And it's all to do with the point of origin, the X0, Y0, Z0 if you're in 3D space, of where this is set up. So if I come up to View and toggle Axis Cross, you can see that the point of origin, Z, X and Y at 0, 0, 0 is here. If I loaded this into, say, Inkscape or a vector-based program, so I'm in Inkscape here, File, Import, and we'll pull in the FreeCAD logo, open that up, okay. If we save this, the point of origin will be here, 0, 0. If I just go File, Open, and load the SVG from here, then you'll see that the file has loaded and our point of origin is here. The only way we can change this in Inkscape is go to Edit, Preferences, and look down at the interface, open that up, and we'll see the origin at upper left with Y-axis pointing down. If this was unchecked, then it'll be the same as a graph, so it'll be at the bottom left. So we can't set that to the center unless we take the whole of the logo and move it to, say, this point here. Then our point of origin will be in the center of this circle. So we have to fix that in FreeCAD. This is actually quite easy to do. There are plugins that we can install to allow you to do this, but I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use a simple drafting technique. So at the moment, if we take any of these paths or the rectangle that's been imported and go right click transform, you notice that the transformation point is up here. We want it to say here or later within this circle. So what do? Well, we come into the part, and what we need to do is compound all of these together. This means we can move these as one. Come up to Part, Compound, and Make Compound. We have one object now, so we don't have to go through and fix the position for each part of these objects. So we've got 3 parts in here. Now we've done that, we need to move this to this point of origin and then fix the transformation point. I'm going to come over to the sketcher and I'm going to create a sketch along the XY plane, which is the same plane as this SVG. And I'm going to create a single point. I'm going to place it here. The reason why I'm doing this is to give me something to snap to the center of origin. If I hit Escape and click on that point and change this out of construction geometry to normal geometry, it will become white. So that's this tool here, toggle construction geometry. We then can take that point and make it coincident to that center with a coincident constraint. Let's close that. What you'll see is a point there. I'm going to click on the sketch, and just so it makes it more obvious, we can come down to the view and up the point size to about 8, so we can see that there. I can use that as a snapping point now. So if we come over to the draft workbench, then we can move this 2D object over this center point quite easily. First of all, we must make sure that our working plane is on the same plane as our SVG, which is basically the top plane, and that's there now. So that's actually set. If it wasn't, what we'll do is come up to Utilities and Select Plane. We must make sure nothing's selected before we do this. So select plane, and then it's going to ask us what working plane setup we want. I can click top, and I'll place it upon the top. So our working plane is set to the top. So before we move this, we need to make sure our snapping is correctly set. If we look to the top, we have a number of snapping tools, and these may be shrunk down under a drop down with this padlock here, maybe over here somewhere. I've got my icons larger than normal so we can see what's going on. Make sure the snapping is checked and set on. This will mean that all these will be colored and become available. I want the snap endpoint, the snap midpoint, and the snap center point. Make sure these are checked and they have a gray background. If I click the compound and come up to the modifications and move, then I can select a point that I want to move this from. And if I hover over this without clicking the mouse button, you can see how I'm snapping to that geometry. I can't snap to this center point at the moment of this circle because it's made up of a number of separate arcs. We'll get to this in a moment. So if I hover over the middle of this line here, you can see that snap midpoint is showing, and that's this one here, snap midpoint. And these are snap endpoints, and we haven't got a center point at the moment. So let's hover over and snap to the center of this line and click once. So now if I move the mouse, you can see we've picked that up at that point. If I hover over this point here, I can drop it and snap it to the center point. So this point, which is just a single sketch. And this is the reason we created this sketch. Let's click once. That's now moved, but we haven't fixed the transformation point yet. Come up to compound, right click transform. You see it's still up here. That's okay that. Now we've got this moved, we can fix that point. Click on the compound, make sure it's selected. Come up to modifications and downgrade. This will downgrade the object, the SVG, into a number of edges. Whilst they're still selected, if you click off, then you can click one. Let's say I clicked off by accident. We can click the top one, come down to the last one, and shift click the last one, select them all. So we've got that selection back. So while that's selected, we do the reverse, modifications and upgrade. We've downgraded it to edges, and now we've upgraded it to wires. This rebuilds the object. So now if I click on, say, this wire, which is the F, and right click transform, the point of origin, or the transformation point, is now at that center there. That's okay that. If we want to move these all as one, then we can take all of them and create a compound again. Come up to part and create a compound, and we click on it, right click, transform, and we've got that there. But let's say that we wanted to actually snap to this center point of this circle, and you saw that we didn't have that center point constraint there because it's not a circle, it's a number of arcs. How do we solve that one? Well, we can fool FreeCAD in thinking that we have a center point there with a sketch. To do that, I'm going to come over to the sketcher again, and I'm going to create a new sketch. Make sure nothing's selected. This is important. So create a new sketch along the XY plane, and okay that. I'm going to import geometry from this circle. So using the external geometry tool, we'll import a number of vertices from this circle here. So I'm just selecting 3, like so. I've got an arc there, that doesn't matter, we'll just use one of those points on there. And we've got an arc here as well. Let's click on the circle and create a circle, say here. I'm now going to hit escape and select the circle and this point and this one and this one and use a point on object constraint. So we selected them all, those points, and created a point on object constraint that's constrained this circle to here. If this wasn't a circle, this will become over constrained. We'll have to delete it and think of another way of doing this. We can use any shape, what we want from up the top. Now we've got this sketch. If I close that, you see the sketch sits behind this circle. We can use this to fool FreeCAD in thinking this is part of the geometry for moving this SVG. Well, I say fool FreeCAD, we're just snapping to geometry. So if we come back over to the draft workbench and let's click on some space to make sure nothing's selected and select the compound, go to modifications and come down to the move, we now can hover over this circle, this sketch, and you notice now we've got a center point. We're actually snapping to the sketch, but we've chosen the SVG geometry to move. So that means if I click now with that center point highlighted, let's just try to hover over part of that sketch. There we go. Click once. We move from that center point and we can place this upon the point of origin like so. Our sketch may error. So this last sketch here may error. We can just delete that because we don't need that now. And now we've got this centered. I can click on the compound and do the usual. Modifications, downgrade, get the edges, modifications, upgrade to get the new geometry. And if we click any one of these, the wire, right click, transform, the transformation point is at the center point of this circle. And if I click the circle, right click, transform, you can see that there. We can then use this as we want. So we can get rid of all the other geometry, just leaving our wires. And let's say we take all of these and do a modifications upgrade. So we upgraded this to faces now. I can use Boolean against those faces over in the part. So taking this face here, the cog, and face 2, which is the inside of the cog, the one I want to keep, the one I want to remove. Use a cut, yes. And then I can take both of these, control select both of those, and do a extrude of around about 5 mil, and okay. So we extruded both of those. So that's how to set the center point and fix that center point of SVGs to make your life a lot easier when you're doing your modeling. I hope you enjoyed that video and I hope to see you again soon. If you like what you see and you want to donate to the channel, then you can do so via Ko-Fi or Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/MANG0 or via PayPal at paypal.com/paypalme/DarrenBEstone. I also run a Patreon where you can get early access and additional content, and that's at patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Links can be found in the channel header, on the About page, or in the descriptions of these videos. I thank everybody that's donated so far. It really helps to keep the lights on so I can produce more content and also expand the channel. Thank you for liking, commenting and subscribing to these videos, and I hope to see you again in the next one.